crazy times, the world just needs a hero to help cut through all the noise.
Well, now you have two.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, on a somber episode of this wonderful Heroes of Noise interview during the world burning. I'm one half of your host. I'm Steve.
Steve.
Yeah.
Hey, buddy.
Yeah.
How's it going, pal?
I'm doing, how are you doing?
I asked you first. I guess we're about to find out, huh? What's happening, everybody? Welcome to Heroes of Noise. You're right, somber. Somber's a good word for it. This is going to be a different show today. This is something that we have never done before. We always kind of wrestled back and forth with whether we should do this or not, and I think now's the time to do it. So, this is Dan, by the way. I felt like we couldn't really go forward for a couple of reasons, but the main reason is that we need to address some things, some really important topics that we're going to get to in just a second. This is episode 114, and with us today, we have a very special guest. She's back for her second time on Heroes of Noise, and we'd like to welcome Christina J to the show. What's up, Christina?
Hey, how's everyone doing in the 2020 apocalypse?
Twilight Zone.
Revelations 2, chapter 20.
Yeah, 7-headed dragons and all that.
I thought I heard some trumpets outside, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. There was a killer bees, so that's definitely the first sign.
We got murder hornets.
They did. They came over here, saw it, and was like, "Oh hell no!" They're like, they seem to be doing well by themselves, killing each other. So we're just gonna go ahead and leave.
We extinct enough. Shit.
Good Lord. Oh boy.
I know we're like just trying to find our legs on this one here, but let's start it off on a light note. I just want to say that I heard Christina singing right before we started, and it was beautiful.
Oh my Lord Jesus!
What was she singing?
We shall overcome.
Oh Lord, is that what it is? Going back to the spirituals.
That's what she was singing in her heart. But no, we're using Zencaster, and I was muted, just sitting here setting up, and I hear her come on, and I just hear Zencaster. She starts singing. Wow. I let her go too for like a good 15 seconds before I said, "Hey, what's up?"
And that is a thing too. That is a thing.
He came in like God. I'm like, Jesus, where? I didn't even know he was.
Yeah, you have to sing the pain away.
Mm-hmm.
Sing the pain away.
Well, exactly. I remember my grandma back in the day when you do something knucklehead, she would just be like, "I'm going to kill these kids." I'm like,
"Oh my goodness." I'm so glad that
No, my grandma used to be like, "Lord," they're like, "My Lord." She'll be like, "Lord Jesus, Lord." She'll be like, "Okay, let's just sit in the room for a while."
It's not safe.
Today is not the day.
Let me tell you, that is exactly what my daughter does. When I start going, "Lord Jesus, don't make me hurt this child. Don't make me slap her in the middle of next week."
Yeah.
She'd be like, "I'm going to go in my room because clearly she going to murder me."
Especially today. You're like, okay, right now is not the time to be, oh, no. Oh, no. I mean, considering I'm glad at work I work alone so that I don't have people being like, they give you don't know where they stand. I'm assuming everybody's my enemy right now. So if they come in and they're like, "How about these protests, right?" I'm like, I'm not going to even assume you're on the right side asking me that. I do not want to talk to anyone at work because I'm letting the listener know you're going to be very disappointed if you talk to coworkers. Very disappointed because they most likely are on the wrong side.
I'm finding that out myself, man. Obviously, it's a incredibly sensitive subject, but if you don't have anything positive to add to this, just don't say anything. You know what I mean?
I put a post. I didn't even try to sugarcoat it. I put a post on Facebook and I said, "Look, if you support Trump, unfollow me now. We're not friends. I will never be friends with you. You might as well go ahead and do what you need to do. You ain't got to announce it to me. I'm just letting you know, if you even step to me with those words, we will not be speaking amicably." And I work in corporate America. corporate America.
Mm-hmm.
So no, it is with every, I mean, us working from home right now is probably the best thing
right.
for the black and white right now, because I can tell you there would be a lot of tension, because I work with 30 and I know already where they stand, and I could not even, I couldn't.
No, not even close. And I don't even like here's what even the people that are like, if they're like, I'm all for protests, but I'm like, delete. I already know I'm just going to delete you. I know what's going to follow this. All you did was let me sugarcoat a little in the beginning, and then go into my 8-minute rant about that I have to read about. Well, but y'all are blowing, I'm on small business. Okay. First of all, let's calm down calling Target a small business. That's just easy on that.
Target's going to be fine.
Easy. They are going to get more money. They're going to get more money now for insurance than they had before. They'll be fine. And also, if you really wanted to be a positive individual, you would be like, I totally get, even if it's not part of the protest, I totally get the anger that is out there, the seething anger. But no, it's not one of those things that they get. And so, yeah, I'm just deleting. I'm almost tempted. I'm this close to, if they write scripture, I might delete them. I might, because if they do a scripture and cite cite the text, I might delete them, because I'm like, you know what? I think I know where you're coming from too. I think I know where you're coming, because most of it is about the peacemaker. For sure.
Exactly. Oh my God. I just put that out on Facebook. I'm like, it's always the moderate American.
Yes.
Martin Luther King said that they want to address the issue. They really just want peace. He's like, I don't really, okay, you had your point, but it's going on too long. I'm tired. I don't want to see it anymore. Why can't we just, why don't you get your ass up out there and help us make some change?
Simple as that. And also, whenever you cite Martin Luther King, what happened to him? What happened to him? If you're going to cite Martin Luther King, say Martin Luther King, comma, who was murdered. Then go on with your statement.
Arrested for peacefully protesting.
Yes.
Multiple times.
So let's just mind you, he did it right. Yeah, okay. And that worked out well for him.
Because that's the image, that they like to paint themselves. They see all the white people and the black people at the National Monument, and that's imprinted in it. That's all they remember about Martin Luther King. And I Have a Dream. That's all they remember of black babies and white babies. They say, maybe, yeah, go him. Yeah. A lot of things happened in Alabama before he got to Washington. Read up on all that.
And and that's what I'm saying. Martin Luther King is it's an easy out. It's a perfectly easy out when you see these kids out there. And look, at 20, they got their 25, 27, they got that adrenaline going. They got that anger. They got that justified anger that I love to see. They're out there being like, I will burn this thing to the ground.
I love
this fight
so much, because one, they're like, I ain't got shit to do right now.
Yes.
2, I don't have F to lose right now. Thirdly, what am I mean, they're the ones that are in college getting the actual, not the sugar-coated version down of history that is sold to every American that goes through public school. They actually have professors teaching them real history. A lot of the youth nowadays aren't like they were in the last 20, 30 years. Social media has changed completely the way in which people are educating themselves, seeing things for themselves, and the youth are constantly on social media. So when they see on their TV screens, like today, Barr talking about, we're trying to just stop Antifa and these really, we're all for peaceful protests. They're like, I have 50. They're trending it right now. Blue Fall. We got all these videos showing you full of shit.
Yep, that's true, and it's true. And the thing is, they also have this thing where they'll get shot by rubber bullets. First of all, a rubber bullet will put me out for a month and a half, 2 months easy. I'm not walking for a while, and they're just like going out there with bruises again the next day. I'm like, these youth are different. These youth are different.
Mhm.
They're the ones that are like, like for me being 42, I'm just like, but we live in a hellscape. I'm leaving. It's done. And they're just like, but it's not right. How can you run from a fight? And then you're like, you know what? You're right.
They're like, they're so ready to fight. They're so ready to fight. It's not only that, just everything has let them down. Just think about their generation, particularly Generation Z. Things have let them down consistently. They've done their part. They've done the voting, because we can go back to Trump being elected. They've done everything that they can do, and yet nothing changes. So now they're like, you know what? I've seen so many Caucasian women and men out there like, shoot me, motherfucker, just do it. I will die for this cause. And that's the difference between people who sit on the sidelines wanting for peace and people that are out there protesting. Because they're like, no, I believe so my conviction is so strong. I'm willing to die. I'm willing to take these bullets, especially white people, because they figure, I get on the news, at least my face is recognizable and you can't ignore me. And that's what we need. That's how you use your white privilege.
That's and it's happening. I see it happening. The thing is, they have proven, the cops now, the police force, dude. The police force. They have proven that at this point, they will kill anyone. Any person.
Do you know they got snipers? They got snipers now.
They got everything. They got tanks. They got everything right now. They're talking about
it's the National Guard, though. It's just the National Guard.
Yeah, but I mean, the freaking police have been so militarized that
Thank you. They're the National Guard.
That's what I'm saying. That's the same thing. They're like, oh no, the National Guard is different. Oh wow, I cannot differentiate them at all from the military.
Yeah,
they have
maybe by outfit.
They got snipers on Home Depot.
It's crazy. The fact that we have not, like, just now that I've gotten to the point of, I'm done with them. Defund and abolish police and have community police. Mm-hmm. That way, you have to look at the people that you're interacting with. You have to live among these people. We cannot have an armed militia monitoring our city. And that's what we have. These people have riot gear ready to rock and roll. Ready to rock and roll at any moment.
Trump, as we speak, is putting a gate around the White House.
Yeah, it's like reinforcing what was already there.
Reinforcing what was already there, so that the next time he does a photo op, he can't know that the rest of America can't hear. It's too late. We already know and that, to me, a lot of people say, it's just showing him being weak, but it also terrifies me, because that can also be seen as a way of fortifying himself for the next step. Because everything that I heard today on the news is saying, we're fine with peaceful protesters, but let's get it back to Antifa and the looters, the 15 looters out of the 30,000 people, 10,000 people you have arrested.
Yes,
please.
Exactly. And also, like, Dan, this is kind of a local thing. Dan, we have like 500,000 people in the city, right?
Right.
What do you think our police budget is?
That's a really good question. Why is the number 200 million popping into my head? Am I way off?
No, that's $200 million.
That's what I thought. Yeah. I had to think about that one for a second.
And then they asked for $100,000 more for more guns. So they didn't even, and it's like, where could that money go, Dan? Where in Fresno, California, where could $200 million go?
Rubber bullets.
Dude,
wait, they call them non or less lethal bullets.
Exactly.
Now. Come on now.
They're
taking people's eyes out. Yeah, sure, they have not died from these things, but they're taking out people's eyes. They're aiming for the face. Like, I don't understand how we suddenly, now, don't get me wrong, I'm going to actually be a little more quiet on this episode because I really want to hear from you two. I want to hear, I think, Steve, I know you and you've been quiet. And when you're quiet, that means you want to scream. You know what I mean? So I really want to hear what you guys have to say. So I'm going to kind of reserve for a bit here, but I will say that I woke up the other day realizing far too late. See, that's the thing. I think I feel a little bit guilty about this because, I know all of this was going on, right? And even on the past, Steve, we've had conversations about like, well, I've got some family in law enforcement, or were in law enforcement. I know a few friends that are in law enforcement. And I used to go with the pattern of, well, there's good cops and there's bad cops. And there's just far too many bad cops right now. And I read something the other day, and I think it was a tweet. And it basically just said, if you have, maybe you read this, if you have 100 bad cops and 10 good cops, and the 10 good cops don't say anything about the 100 bad cops, then you have 110 bad cops.
That's a fantastic quote, dude. I did not see that.
And I've really been in my head about it. I don't think I've ever been this angry before. And I think I'm angry. I'm sort of mad at myself for letting myself stay so reserved for so long. You know what I mean? And I know, that I've been going hard and everything. And it's like, I almost feel guilty about that. Like, oh, great. Somebody just woke up. I feel torn in the middle a little bit because, I am not white. I'm not black. I would consider myself privileged because I've had a few, run-ins with some racist comments and stuff, but I have not lived that life. And I woke up and it just, and I'm going to say woke up, not necessarily like physically waking up. Like I woke up and I'm just like, this can't go on anymore. I cannot defend police officers anymore.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's moving to me. And again, maybe this is one of those too little too late things, but it has been moving to me to see the few people that have just quit. They put down their equipment and they just
crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Because there's so many dynamics to that.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes. Like they know where they live.
Yes.
They know where that person lives. They know why they stepped away. These people are not making it a secret. They're on social media. And I'm like, you stepped away from the mafia.
Yeah.
Is what you did.
Basically.
You walked away from the police state that's going on right now.
Yes, and your way of making money. There's a lot of things you have to consider.
Yes. Matter of fact, I made a comment the other night because it was this, it was on Facebook and I was heated and I actually deleted the comment and I wanted to explain why. So like what it was it was this African-American police officer and the protesters were talking to him, right? And they're just like, just kneel with us. Just kneel with us. And this dude, you could see the look on his face that he just felt like what am I doing? You could see the look on his face.
Yeah.
So he kneels down and then his white partner, his colleagues come and like pull him up.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, no. So he kneels back down again. They pull him up again. This time they whisper something into his ear. And then they pull him back a little bit and they whisper something else. And then he comes back again. So my initial thought was, this guy needs to just walk away right now. Like if he doesn't, then he's brought this onto himself. But there are so many dynamics to that. I had to correct myself because you're right, Steve. They're walking away from your source of income, perhaps your source of benefits. Yeah. How are you going to feed your family?
Yeah.
Here's another thing. Crazy concept. Maybe this person really did want to get into law enforcement to do good. And then, and you know that he saw things right off the bat. That's like, oh my God, this is not what I signed up for. But how long did he stick it out for? So you're right. Walking away from something like that seems really easy when you're on like when you're just at your keyboard typing because you're mad, like myself.
Exactly.
But that's not the case. I mean, these guys are doing something that is so noble and so brave and dangerous, I think would be a good word for it.
It's there for every one of those that did that.
Yeah.
That's why I'm just like, if you defund and abolish police forces, they don't have to make the decision.
Yeah.
And if they're like, well, where are we going to work? Well, considering, look at the LAPD's budget is $3 billion.
$3 billion. That could have paid reparations.
Thank you. And imagine this. You now create other jobs with that money for these police officers to do. Do that. Why do we need to put $3 billion into an armed militia, pretty much you're in an army state. Mm-hmm. Why do we need to do that anymore? It's done. We have done this. Okay, for years, we have done this experiment. The experiment has failed. So maybe we should try something else. And I get it. I get it why people say, well, we can't really, how do we get rid of police force? I'm like, yeah, I get it. Because as long as you've been alive, they've been here. That doesn't
the police became the police force because they were originally slave catchers.
Yep. Slave patrols.
So they've been for the white Americans for a really long time. Black Americans, not so much.
Exactly. And we can't imagine how people can't imagine how do you do it as long as I've been alive, they've existed. How do you get rid of something that has existed as long as you've been alive? Be like, yeah, well, you make a big enough fuss and you get, that's why I say everyone run for office. If Trump can make it into office.
Oh, my Lord.
If Trump can win, I assure you,
but
you can win.
If he even won, I'm still not thoroughly convinced because Hillary had the people's. It was not the people that voted his behind in. It was the people that also impeached him, and he's still sitting in that chair because of the people in that house that are.
That's the sick part of it. Mistakes are already made, and they continue to make mistakes, conscious of what they're doing and what they're protecting, and it's all self-serving. And it's just we have, I keep saying it, but we have run into this episode of the Twilight Zone, and it's like, how do we turn this around? You know what I mean? Like, how do you abolish and deconstruct and completely just get rid of an institution that is like centuries old? And
exactly,
right,
dude.
That's centuries old. We've known this. We're talking since the 1700s.
Yes,
they've been dealing with this, all based on slave control, and then they just branched off of that.
Yeah, totally.
That has to go away. It has to.
And I get it. Like I said, it wasn't until I read, I'm like, well, you can't really get rid of something. And then you read up on abolishing police. I'm like, oh, you can.
Yeah.
It turns out if everyone's like, yeah, we don't want this anymore, we're going to go ahead and get rid of it. And it's tough because you could tell the older people, even Bernie said, we need to pay them more so that they'd be, willing to work differently. And I'm just like, oh, you're so old that you believe that there's no way to get rid of it. It's the younger group. Look at AOC. They're like, yeah, defund this place. It's over. I'm like, that's a young person saying that. AOC is young. And she's like, yeah, I've only been around 20 something years. And I think we can get rid of something that I've only seen for 20 something years.
But not only seen do nothing that is for the Black and brown community. They're like, what do? You show up to someone passing a counterfeit bill. 4 officers, $3 billion for a counterfeit. Even to this day, people get pulled over to the side of the road for a speeding violation, and there's 4 cop cars. What? You have nothing to do.
And here's how bad they are. Here's how bad the police force is. If I go to Dan's job and show a video online of Dan doing his job and being like, look at this. Look at Dan doing his job. People will be like, yeah, he's doing his job. If they come to me and they're like, Steve, look at him playing piano and this is crazy. No, they wouldn't be tripping. You go to if you put a video of a cop doing a nice thing, people are like, oh my God, look at this. It goes viral. Why? Because it's insane that they're doing a nice thing. It's not a normal part of their job. This is crazy. That's a problem.
Don't feel bad, Dan, by the way, about finding things that wake you up. I myself am not a I would not define myself as a political person. Mm-hmm. I am not left, right. I believe in the good and the bad of my conscience. That is where I stand and have always stand. And I find watching the news media for most of my 30s, well, I'm 36 years, but I ain't been watching these that long. Whatever.
What do you know? You're a youngster.
Hey, I'm a millennial.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to step on you. I didn't mean to step on your
words. It's fine. But I have never really paid as much attention because I'm like, oh, the news media, they just put on there the same 5 stories, recycle them over again, don't really tell the truth. I don't believe and trust them. So I've found myself over the years hearing so many Black and brown people, die from police brutality. And I've kind of gotten so used to it.
We get numb.
You get numb and you tune it out. And let me tell you, it wasn't until I watched the Ahmaud Arbery tape that I was woke up in a way I've never been awake before. I've never spent days on social media protesting, signing petitions, tagging news crews, everything. Today I literally called. I saw a Facebook post of someone. It turned out to be a fraud of saying that she hates ends and spit in their mouth because she has herpes and hopes she gives them to them. And I called
yeah.
I called the hospital. I literally, in that moment that it was shared with me, I didn't say, I'm going to share this. I picked up the phone and I said, let's make some phone calls. I've been calling offices. I have never done this in my soul. To say, I mean, don't feel bad for waking up. A lot of people are waking up from the numbness, and then the pain is coming in, and that is starting to give us more strength than we had previously.
Totally. And Dan and I are old enough to remember Rodney King.
Oh.
Like, that was dude. We saw I learned about on that. Video. That was like one of the first times where we were watching, like, oh, they're beating they were hitting them so hard that you forgot they were batons.
Yeah, I'd never seen anything like that before at my age. I was just, what the hell is this? You know? Exactly. But the thing is now, guys, what's up with the news? Because you can turn on the news and they're going to talk about President Trump, and they're going to, I hate even saying president, but they're going to talk about Trump.
Oh, I don't call him president.
I know it slipped out. You have to pardon me. I don't know. I haven't had a lot of sleep. I've been angry lately.
Or the devil in the White House.
Yeah, no, I mean, this imposter, you know what I mean? But they're showing the police launch, rubber bullets and tear gas into protesters, crowds and things like that, peaceful protesters. Okay, that's terrible. I get it. But why isn't the news showing what's really happening with the police? Like, you have to go to Twitter and Reddit for me have sort of become the real news, because that's where I'm getting the truth.
Yes. Because guess who owns them all?
Talking about it though. Exactly. What is that? I don't get it.
And you got to be careful on Reddit. Like, I have to be real careful where I go on Reddit, because it could go left or, well, technically right.
Yeah, right.
Very, very fast. But in the right groups, I can honestly say this. On Reddit, I think some of the funniest, smartest, most clever comments exist. Where I'm just like, I would have never thought of that. Is a hilarious comment. But there's also very, very smart people on Reddit.
Yes.
Where you're not just scrolling, you actually have a chance to read a paragraph of something breaking something down. And so, yeah, Twitter and Reddit are don't go to the news, because the news are going to want, like, they love the police. Because why? They have big buildings. They're corporate based, huge monster, financially, all that stuff. And so who do they want to protect it? People with sniper rifles. Yeah. People with AR-15s. Yeah. They want these guys around. So, yeah, I totally get, even though it's terrible. Now, mind you, I will say, have you noticed recently, I don't know, last night I was watching randomly CNN, and I don't even know why I had it on, but it was a guy from Australia.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, and I was like, wait.
The Australians, they keep pushing that video like they are so mad. They from the, it's like, you ain't gonna sit here and fucking lie to me on national television. Like, you did not just, I mean, they had it from 3 different damn angles. Like, explain to me how you gonna tell me the person gonna go on the news talking about there was no tear gas or rubber. But really? Because I got this, let me give you the 3D angle so you can see this shield going into his stomach.
Exactly.
He got shot in the hand. These are up from the news. And that's why they're so mad, because most of the people that were outside that day, someone must have not told him who was outside that day, because most of them were press. And those press, though, are being shut down. And the American press, though, they don't want to keep hyping it up, because every time a video comes up of more police brutality, it changes the narrative. It gets people angrier. They think if we can calm people down, maybe they'll go home. If we can stop showing but you cannot stop. Like, a lot of people, the people that are going out press testing, they're not the ones watching CNN news at 7:00. They're just not.
And here's the thing, Dan, also, like, for me, I woke up, I didn't wake up totally for a while either. And look on the news, look at Don Lemon. Don Lemon months ago was like pro, and like, oh, well, this side says this side said that. And you slowly saw him devolve into, oh, wait a minute. This man in the White House is crazy.
Don is done.
He is done.
He's so done.
He's finished. He's out.
He's like, and if they tell him he can't say so, I guarantee he will quit on air. He'll be like, you know what? I'm finished. Like, he is done. And I don't know what happened. I don't know if it might be, if he's married, if it's his husband, or what's going on here. But whatever changed, it switched like in a day.
You know what the change was? I am
like,
going to fascism. It is that's when they slipped the line. That's when that was probably the worst thing he could have said at any time, but at this time. Are you kidding? Don't throw racism and fascism together, because now you were just united two whole classes.
And he's finished. I think he's going to dip. He's going to either that or MSNBC is just going to let him, or they might just let him, or CNN, or he's CNN, isn't he?
CNN.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or they're just going to let him go. They're going to let him keep talking. Maybe it's going to, you know what they're going to do? They're going to let him do his thing and use him as the prop whenever someone says that you're biased.
Oh.
That's what they're going to do. They're going to be like, wait, we have CNN. They're going to use his picture in one of the all views. We respect everyone's views. Chris Cuomo. Go! That's what they're going to do.
Of course. It's like they're using the Black Republicans right now to speak after every Caucasian person stands up. And they come right next to copy and paste. I'm like, are you a person? Or are you a drone?
Exactly.
Because you just literally copied everything he said. You must have had it underlined because you made sure to underscore those points.
Well, the thing is, if you can lie and get away with it, like people can get on there supporting Trump and be like, he's the most successful president ever. He has the most this ever and this ever. By the time they fact check what they just said, they've already said it and gotten off air. And so it's like lie. And CNN's like, we're gonna have to do a 3-hour fact checking in order to tell you all these things. But now I see them saying they'll cut him off and be like, that's not true. That's not true what you just said. That's not true. I'm like, wait a minute.
That's because too many people. You can't keep lying. I mean, the president, I'll call him that word. That man lied himself to the former Secretary of Defense, who came out bashing, slamming him, who quit, mind you, over Syria and removing troops. That was his issue. He absolutely does not support military use or what he did to those protesters. He knows what's going on. And instead of, this petty little fool going talking about, well, I gave him his nickname and I fired him. And within 2 seconds, I'm like, everyone's like, are you out of your fucking, did you just lie over pettiness because of criticism? You went out and just told a bald-faced lie. And people still go, I don't see why people are so rude to Trump. He's just doing his best job.
That's the thing. And honestly, if you came to hear something and you haven't got it yet that we're not talking about, like the fucking Avengers or something like that, I won't apologize. Check us out next week, okay? Because this isn't the show. Because what I have to say right now is
eventually I will get back on the Avengers. Trust me. We'll get back.
We'll get there. We're trying to get back to it. But right now, we live in a country where they're tear gassing clergymen for the sake of a photo op.
They're tear gassing people who they're rubber shooting and tearing down tents for people that are providing medical aid. Yes.
We're living in a country where they're shooting rubber bullets at a car with a pregnant woman in it that has done nothing, that is simply trying to get home.
And I think, would be a good thing, and I'm not going to do it, but it's a good idea. I would want a reporter to be like, we keep on throwing around this word rubber bullet. So I'm going to go. I'm going to volunteer myself to get shot by a rubber bullet and see what it feels like. Because then I guarantee it all changes. He's going to be like, or she's going to be like, oh, we can't call these things rubber bullets anymore. Yeah. No. I mean, if I wasn't worried about my ribs getting broken, I would just be like, videotape myself getting shot by a rubber bullet.
Oh, no, better yet. Have one of those, since they keep saying they're non-lethal, have an officer go out there. No vest, no nothing. Yeah, have press right there. Shoot him with a rubber bullet. Let's just watch his real-time reaction. Let's see how less lethal he feels after this.
No, I remember when my dad, when he worked, when he was kind of in law enforcement, they were like, we had to go through a hall full of tear gas. And it was like, why? He said, because before you let those things off, you have to know what it feels like. And he's like, you can't breathe. So we didn't really use it that much because you're just like, Jesus, I don't think you have to deal with that anymore. Like, I'm sure a lot of these officers never really had to, the most they got were maybe days. They've never gotten shot with a rubber bullet.
Only one got tased. Said, "Who wants to volunteer to see what this feels like to tell all the rest of you guys?"
And every single one of them screams and falls, and then they use it on everybody. They use it on everybody. Like that pepper spray is no joke.
No joke. And did you see the people that had the girl was sitting on the ground, had her hands up, had her mask up, right? Because there also is this thing called a pandemic going around.
Jesus.
The officer rips down her mask to spray her in the face with pepper spray.
I've seen that a couple of times. Different people too.
No,
yeah.
Never mind the fact that in a prison cell, a black man died from pepper spray. And there's people coming out from the CDC saying this is an illegal chemical weapon. Yeah, but we're casually just using it.
Exactly. And here, on a random note, I have friends that are in, and I get it. I have friends that are just like, well, if you want to be armed, then we're going to be armed. Okay. We're okay. For all you people that are just like, hey, we're going to buy guns. Do you not see that they have tanks? What is your customized AR-15 going to do I'll say even, let's just say that you're like, okay, they're not going to come to my family. If they send a soldier and a tank, you lose.
Oh,
game over. Bigger gun.
That's not even with the snipers.
Thank you. And let's just say they're like, well, we have a whole group. Okay, let me add in one soldier in one tank and a few in a helicopter. You lose again. We don't care we don't care how big your group is. If we have 50 cows getting unleashed onto your house, your little, but I got a scope and some crazy looking infrared. Come on, Jay.
And really, what's the narrative going to be afterwards? It's not going to be a man defends his home from a police. It's going to be a man murdered a police officer.
Bingo. We had to shoot him because he had a
gun. He felt, I was perceived to be in danger. You're outside with a tank. But you're allowed to feel fear, but I'm not allowed to and protect myself.
That's the thing. Either way, either they get killed or they go to jail for killing somebody. I mean, so it's a lose-lose situation, I think, what Steve's trying to say.
If you can't, and so just my thing is, everyone that's buying guns to protect your family, I get it. But if you think you're going to have this standoff with cops and you're black, standoff with cops never go the way the standoff with white folks goes. The cops will always be like, okay, well, we've come to an understanding between me and the standoff group, some cult in the woods. And we're just going to go ahead and let bygones be bygones. That's not how it's going to go for you. And I get it. You think it will, but it won't. So if you're using your gun to protect your family, great. But if you're on Facebook saying, they got weapons, so do I. No. You got a pea shooter. They have helicopters with 50 cows.
Exactly.
Totally different level.
Go back to 1912 Tulsa. Who was there? The National Guard. Who else was there? Local law enforcement. Look at the scene of the carnage. Those people living there were ex-military that fought for their country in World War I. What did they do?
Yeah.
They took a plane, dropped bombs, they took the police and destroyed all the businesses, and they killed as many blacks as possible. Do you think they didn't have guns to protect themselves? But do you know what America did when it happened? They quietly pushed it under the rug. Until when? 2016. Most people you ask about Tulsa 1912, they go, what you talking about? Unless they watch Watchmen. That's the sad history of this country. The fact that no people didn't even know. They're like, this was a real thing? What? Yeah, this was a real thing.
Exactly. And that was then. Now, would they even need a tank, or could they just get they could just have a drone. Mm-hmm. They could get a drone that you never saw. You didn't even know something was above you. Mm-hmm. You just, all of a sudden, you're done. And so if you're using a gun to protect your family, and you think that they're going to break in and you're going to be Jason Bourne, fine. If you think a robber is going to come in and you're going to do some random, Mission Impossible stunt moves and shoot him square in the head, great. But if you think you're going to go up against this militia, this armed army we have trolling our streets, do not pass that on to other people. Don't do it.
Don't.
I don't care if you got 100 people. Don't do it. If you got 1,000 people, don't do it, because 1,000 people, they're going to see 1 million.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
And they're going to see 1 million, and they will come armed as that.
Yep, you'll be terrorists next.
Exactly.
You'll be terrorists. They'll be labeling you the terrorist. Why? Because you got armed to protect yourself. Oh, wait. When the white people do it, though, they're just exercising.
They're marching right alongside with their AR-15s.
I could not believe they went to City Hall with that. I was like, oh, it's over. It's over. We live in 2 Americas. It's over.
Listen to this. This is on a very small scale, but this is the difference, okay? And I know you guys understand this, but for people that don't, or maybe kind of going, or maybe people that don't understand that skin color truly makes a difference.
Yes.
Like maybe you're even saying, you know what, I've heard all this before. No, you haven't. You haven't.
Nope.
And this is it. This is on just a small scale, all right? So this is in Greensboro. Troy Herring, 21 of Greensboro, was charged with violating. These are the same charges, by the way. Yeah. Was charged with violating curfew. His $100 bond was posted, and his next court date will be September 15th. All right, let's go. This is in Greensboro, but I'll throw this one in anyway. Says Jet Xuan Su Chang, 21 of Stokesdale, was charged with violation of curfew. Same thing. His bond was set to $300, and his next date is September 15th. Jeez, now, let's talk about a black man real quick. According to social media, he lives in Greensboro and was charged with, and it doesn't have his name. Okay, I apologize. I would say his name if it was there, but I'm just reading this here. Was charged with curfew violation, and his bond was set to, anyone want to take a guess?
$1,000.
No, it's not as much, but it's $500. So it's $400 more than the white guy. This is on a small scale, people. This is on a small scale, just getting
$400. Remember, what is it, Dan? Like most people don't have, what percentage don't have $400 in case of emergency?
Yeah.
They don't have, that is life. And if someone was said the difference between 100 and 500, some families will be like, oh, that's the difference between getting out of jail and not.
That's the difference between being a home, making rent.
Yes.
And having a place to stay when you get out of jail, or being in jail.
Yes. Yes.
More black people have to sit in jail and wait for their court date because they cannot afford to get themselves out on bond for the same minor offenses as Caucasians. Some people, though, you can put as many facts in front of them as possible. But I think a lot of people, a lot of Caucasians, especially the people I know, that part of me sees good in, not part of me, I see the good in their heart, right? I know they're good people. I know they're not actively racist, right? Those are the people I'm talking to mostly right now, because those are the ones that are really sitting at home and doing shit. You got the one side trying to agitate everything, trying to take black people down. You got the black side that are all like Black Lives Matter. I should split it like that. All lives matter, Black Lives Matter. And then there's this huge group in the middle. And they're just like, well, I don't know what to do that is going to alienate me from my white privilege. And I don't want to feel the guilt I would have to feel if I start listening to the evidence of what Black Lives Matter stands for. And I think that guilt continues. I mean, it's like, well, I wasn't here with slavery. I mean, they make every excuse for it. Well, I don't actively go do racist things. Yeah, but you can, a clear example, and I'm going to use this as my corporate America example, is I'm sitting in a room and a person comes up to me, a young Caucasian girl, and I don't say anything bad to her. And she tells me, you need to listen. This is how she's speaking to me. And not only that, this girl is 20-something years old. I ain't gave birth. Bitch, get out of my, I want to say that, but I'm sitting here keeping my cool. And she's mad because I actually, instead of confronting her on something she did, I went to the manager. So she's like, you couldn't tell me what to do. I don't understand why you have to be like you. You just think you're better than someone. I think I'm better than someone. Mind you, I finally get upset. I'm crying. I finally lose my stuff going, you can't talk to me like this. There are 3 Caucasian people around me. Do you know when a manager comes over and asks what happened. And the little girl, of course, goes to the victim. Well, it was the way she said those victim tears. The minute they're in trouble, it was the way she said it. Yeah. I'm sitting over here just destroyed. And the 3 white people that heard the entire thing don't say a fucking word. That is what you guys are doing right now, sitting on your couch, looking at all the evidence. You're making yourself complicit, whether you think that you're racist or not. You've got to get the hell up off the couch and do something. Stop it. Yeah. You're too much the majority right now.
Yeah. And I got good news. White privilege can't go anywhere. It's like a superpower. And there is no kryptonite for it. Like as soon as you have it, like let's see you go and confront the police. Tomorrow, you still got the white privilege. You're good. You're straight. You're good to go. There's nothing that if you get in and use it, you will still have it. And when you see these young people understanding, and here's the thing, I think the good thing that the young people don't know is I think they're so young they don't remember Sandy Hook, where white kids were killed and America did nothing. And so it's like it's all these things happen.
1970.
But what cops won't do are really more hesitant to do is kill a white person on camera. Mm-hmm. Now, mind you, they will kill black folks. They will kill Hispanic folks. They will kill indigenous people. No problem. I mean, the Hispanic kid, Sean Mentarosa, that just was killed on Tuesday.
Yeah.
The cop shot through his windshield outside. He shot from his cop car to this kid, shot him 5 times through his windshield. And they were like, oops, I thought he had a gun.
Oh, he was kneeling. I perceived a threat.
He was kneeling with his hands up. 22-year-old Hispanic kid. Why? Because they just saw a monster. Mm-hmm. He's a monster.
And this is the thing. They're like, with everything happening, they're still like, I don't see the problem. I don't see. And not only that, I know shit ain't gonna happen to me. Oh, I might get a slap on the wrist. Oh, I might get some disciplinary action. Oh, I might get desk duty. There are 15 different ways they're gonna keep you on the pay. They might have you fired, but they don't say, do you keep your pension?
No. And when I see this kid at 22 years old, he didn't live at all. Mm-mm. He didn't live at all. That's
barely started.
Years. Barely started living. And he does exactly what his mother told him to do.
Exactly.
Hey, if you see a cop, kneel and put your hands up.
Yeah.
Okay, Mom, I'll do it.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, if I may, excuse me, I think that's something that and when I say this, it's not black people that don't understand this. And I know you're going to know what I mean by this, but I think that even, more so to a degree, Hispanic society, they understand those things, Mexican Americans, people living in LA, they understand this kind of stuff.
Totally.
But
yes, they do.
But, and it's, and it's going to be a black and white discussion all the time. But here's the thing, man, it's like, you got to see what's going on. Like what I just read, the punishments are so different. You can go to a white person can go to a cop right now because he's mad. He or she is mad that they can't wear masks. Why? And scream in their face while they have an AR-15 in their hand. Mm-hmm. And that's perfectly acceptable. These people they're just upset. They're just
exercising their First Amendment right.
Yeah. But, getting back to what we were saying about all these videos that are surfacing. I mean, I don't think people truly get the gist of that, of like how far racism really goes, even if it's subtle. For instance, before I get back to the videos, let me just say, or let me talk about the videos real quick. We were talking about like Rodney King, excuse me. And I watched this video the other day and it's like the same thing again. It was almost just as graphic. It just didn't go on for so long.
I saw it from you, actually.
You know the one I'm talking about by the dumpster?
Didn't you retweet it or like it?
Man, I retweeted.
Yeah.
Twitter does not like me right now.
I saw a bunch from you. I was like, I didn't even know this was happening.
Like that's what I'm saying. It's like I keep doing it. Yeah, I'm probably just like bogging down your goddamn timeline. But guess what? You need to know this. Not you guys. No, people need to know this kind of thing. And that's what they don't like hearing it because it makes them uncomfortable. But think about this. Now, I don't think you guys have ever dealt with this personally, but I guarantee it's happening. I've noticed it before. It always felt wrong. I just didn't know really how to approach it. But I'm going to start approaching it next time. So there are times where like I'm not going to say where. Just having a conversation. Maybe I'm having a conversation with a white person. and they're trying to talk about somebody. Let's say they're talking about Steve for the sake of this. Hey, do you know Steve? He works over there in, that department. Steve, the black guy. What the fuck is that?
That's so funny. That is so funny.
That's a real thing. When the fuck did the word black become profanity or a bad thing or something that you can't say at work? And that's just on such a small, subtle scale. But if you've done this before, then don't think that you're not just a little bit racist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Yeah. And it might not even be something that you're intentionally doing, but that's just how far that it's bled into our normal everyday life. That is an acceptable thing to do. And it just it blows my fucking mind. Before I just kind of be like, oh, okay, I caught that, and I'll just keep going with the conversation. But I'm going to stop next time, and I'm going to say, why'd you just whisper that? Yeah, and I want to see what their answers are.
Yeah, you can just say
because And here's the thing, I really want to know what you guys think about this, because you were talking about earlier how white allies, let's just say white allies, are somewhat ignorant to the whole thing that's going on right now. Some of them are, and they're using quotes like you said, Martin Luther King, but they're not backing up their statement, right? Mm-hmm. I'm curious what you guys feel about. How you feel about that? Do you feel like, are you grateful for, you know what I'm saying? Like, are you grateful for it? But you're just like, that's just not enough. Do you find it insulting? I'm very curious, because it seems to me like if we want to get more allies on our side, we sort of have to educate them, right? We don't sort of have to. We have to educate them.
We really have to. Yeah, dude.
So even the best doctor in the world, see, I know how you feel about doctor, but I'm just using this as an example. Even the best doctor in the world started off as not knowing anything, maybe even a little bit queasy about looking at blood. You know what I'm saying? They were green. Mm-hmm. So how do you go about that process and further educate people to where it's a win for both parties, if you know what I'm saying?
I think for me, it's like I have to find, at this point, I believe you need to meet people where they are. Like if they're trying to learn, now I won't meet them where they are if they don't believe it, period. But if they're an ally and they're using MLK quotes, I will meet them where they are, because if they're growing, if I notice them saying this and then this and then this, I'm just like, hey, handle it. I see you. I see what's happening over there. Mm-hmm. And you have to start. And MLK is the most digestible, but a lot of times they end up at Malcolm X. They end up as like, you know what? This dude was talking that game right here. You know what I'm saying? That dude was talking that stuff. And I'm seeing more and more white people saying abolish police, defund police. Mm-hmm. And that all started sometimes with the Malcolm X or with Martin Luther King, because they slowly started doing that. And someone was like, Martin also said this. And they're like, oh, really? And next thing, but here's what I will also say. If there's a white ally that is quoting Martin Luther King and saying we should all get along, but is bashing a racist in their heads all the time online, and I see them, I'll be like, oh, they're just posting that. They're not acting on it.
Oh, the Black Squares, the Black Tuesday, when you ain't never, ever, you ain't said nothing about George Floyd, but all of a sudden you got a black square, you cancel.
But if I see a white ally destroying, throwing buildings and acting a fool, and sometimes they'll post a Martin Luther King, I don't care, because I'm like, but I see what they're doing. Exactly. What they're doing is shoving people in their nose. And I'm like, oh, they're just posting nice things, when in the comments section, they are acting a stone fool. I'm okay with that. I'm like, because I would rather you do that than put a cold-blooded militant post, and then in the comment section, someone's like, I don't agree with that. I think we all should get along and love each other. And then they respond, you know what? Yeah, that's true. I agree with that totally. I'm like, well, then take down your post. Well, then don't put that militant post then.
This is the age of the clapback, okay? The comments are sometimes the best parts of Twitter, especially when you're putting something for a petition or whatever the case may be, and then someone will hijack the petition and try to put their own agenda on there. And then when they use Martin Luther King, I'm like, you're just trying to put that towards your narrative. I don't like those people, because one, you ain't done no independent, actual looking at documentaries, doing some reading, listening to some lectures. The whole damn Amazon.com got a whole library, even though I heard I have to cancel them because they support Trump. But
unfortunately,
unfortunately, and that's hard for me. I ain't gonna lie. There's the devil, and the devil there's expanse.
Well, I heard what they said was buy your black books and your like books that are the woke stuff and the stuff that you're learning from. Buy it from somewhere else. Buy the bull crap from I don't know. You know what? Keep on going.
Okay. I mean, I got sidetracked by that too, because I was like, dang.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm like, damn.
I'm like, sometimes you got to live with something, like you got to make it better. But
inconvenience myself.
Exactly. I'm like, motherfucker, I really love Prime. I had that shit on 2-day shipping for the longest.
You're the worst.
Why you got to be like this? But
yeah, that's true.
Then it pissed me off. That Wendy's. I was like, God damn, I love the bacon.
Well, Wendy's came out today.
Yeah, they came out to say they're gonna support 400,000. Like, I said, hey, now that is what I guess that ties right back into what I was originally saying. If you gotta, because I do hear those people that are like, well, they're just now. Hey, slow the roll. Because if you do not allow people to change, then what are you doing here? You have to allow people to come to be to be woken just the way you were woken.
Yes,
you can't then shame those people because they're just now standing, because then you're shitting them back to the other side, right? By being unwelcoming. You be like, okay, you don't see someone that's stumbling and you keep walking by. You try like, hey, you need some help? Let me help you up so that you can stand beside me. And that is what the Black community needs to start doing to those white allies that are a little unsure. That some people are like, don't come at me if you're a white friend and you ask me about it. No, come to me and talk to me, because one, I give you a face. I give you a personal face to something that is going on in my life. I'm able to bridge that gap between your ignorance and someone that you trust. And I think that the more we start taking those white allies, bringing them in and helping them educate themselves, like, unfortunately, we're not in that society, because we can go, we got the systemic racism in our society, but we also have other issues in our society too. The school public or the educational system in our country is shit and garbage, period. So there are a lot of people, I mean, there's just so many ways. I mean, kids, imagine, I saw the other day, a young lady white ally putting out a sign in front of her house, made these beautiful signs, and her mother ripped those signs down in front of her.
Yeah.
And she's crying, and she has no choice but to walk into that home because she's 17 and that's where she lives.
Yeah, for sure.
You got to put yourself in the position of, we have to grow and learn together. And you cannot alienate in that you're not doing the message. I think more should say, hey, come to me, talk to me, let's have a conversation. I'm able to hear those things that you are saying that you may feel. I mean, the other day I posted on Facebook, 5 ways to help your coworker, your Black coworker. Do you know how many of my white allies, they ain't reached out to me yet, said, thank you, because you gave me something for me to do, for me to read, for me to understand. And you have to just put it in their mindset. Everybody is not a leader. There are a lot of sheep in this world, unfortunately. And those leaders got to be taking them sheep and putting them on your side of the fence. That's what we got to do.
And what I will say is this, like, I see a lot of the Black women on the front line and all that stuff being like, I can't do it. If you don't know right now, I cannot teach you. Black men, Hispanic men, all men, this is now your job, because Black women have been doing it. Female people of color have been doing the jobs. We have been sitting on the side kind of chilling, and we have not actually, they as much as we love Martin Luther King, but we don't talk about all the stuff Coretta had to deal with.
Yep.
You don't want to talk about that. Okay, I don't want to scrub your favorite person.
I mean,
listen.
Look, Martin Luther King was not a saint. So not only did she have to deal with the activism, she had to deal with the man.
Exactly. And so we need to start teaching people. We need to get into that fray and be like, I'll teach these allies how to do this thing. Because look, being real, Black women are on the front line right now. And let me talk about something else. Isn't it funny how Tamika Mallory, she went on, I think she was at a city hall and gave this amazing speech. Yeah. Dynamic, militant. And the only thing you hear about is Killer Mike.
Yep. Yep.
Only thing you hear about.
Only thing. He touched everyone.
And I find it interesting that he had a Kill Your Masters t-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
And yet got on there and be like, go home.
Mm-hmm.
And you know why so many people shared that speech? Because it makes you comfortable.
Yeah, because he was saying the things that you wanted to hear.
Bingo! When you look at who retweeted his speech, it was people that you know are not on your side totally. Why did they feel comfortable retweeting that speech?
Because that's he said go home.
Exactly.
He said go home.
Yes,
then you gonna give me a whole bunch of tears before that. Exactly. I'm not crapping on Killer. I'm sure he wanted to. No, I am shitting on him, dude. Seriously.
And he owns a lot of Atlanta. He owns a lot of stuff. So is he?
I mean, but if you won't go on national TV, let's do this. Not use the name Killer Mike. That ain't your legal name, sir. Can you please introduce yourself like a representative of the Black community? Could you not have taken your hip hop name out of it?
Also, don't wear your Kill Your Master shirt. Exactly. You mean like, hey, I just want to inconvenience the masters. I don't want to kill them necessarily. We're going to all go home. We're going to all, hey, we're going to come back and fight the next day. That same mayor that you're defending sent out troops against the people. Mm-hmm. Where are you now?
Nowhere.
You just were saying that are we perfect? No. But if we don't have Atlanta, what do we got? Well, if we go out and fight, we have a lot.
A lot more.
We'll have a lot, but if we all go home, imagine the whole nation did what Mike said. Hey, go home and start plotting and strategizing. We'd be inside right now thinking, okay, what to do next while Trump runs to victory.
Be inside
hold on.
Watching
exactly.
Planning too goddamn long. Sometimes you got to figure it out in the process.
Thank you. These youth are like, no, we are going to go out there. And I like that they said, yeah, good, whatever. But we're going to be out there tomorrow.
Exactly. No, every day until November. Like, don't get it twisted. They're calling it Red Summer for a reason. Like, don't expect this to be over. Not only that, 40 million people are also unemployed. 40 million people, a lot of people are going through COVID. Not only the poorest communities, Black and brown communities, are the ones that are dying. You threaten them with death, and death is what they got to see when they come home. So you cannot sit and try to tell someone how they should feel when they go out and protest. You don't want to get out there killing Mike? Fine. You want to plot, organize, whatever? Sure. We need those folks after it's done. But let's not pretend that a storm never came, that there were not riots and deaths and police brutality and a whole bunch more protesting for a long ass time before you got to sit up and put any of those changes into effect.
Yep. Exactly. And Tamika Mallory got up there and was just like, for a state to tell us that we're looting, for a country to talk about looting, they're like, you trained us to loot. You came in, looted this country, took our bodies, made us build it. You are the best looters on the planet. The best. And so we're just doing what you trained us to do. Exactly. And I said, Killer Mike's is going to get retweeted. They don't want to hear about this Black woman out there with fire. They want to hear about this dude. Because men, like they said, you know what? It's funny. I heard this on a podcast. It's true. Black men are the white men of Black people.
Sorry.
It's no question. It's no question.
It's no question. That's when you see them Black cops gonna call a Black lady a coon. I almost lost my dang on religion. I said, what is you? You are the worst.
We are the
because
worst.
You forgot who you are.
We will. Here's the funny thing. We'll go out there and start. We're gonna be on the front line. Come home and tell a trans woman, oh no, I'm gonna call you him because that's what I see. I'm like, we're the white folks and Black folks. That's totally understandable. We are the worst, which is why I'm like, while Black women are out there fighting, it is our job to go out there and teach because they don't have it in them to be debating and then teaching and then doing this and then getting on the front lines and also doing that and then coming back doing speeches only to have your speeches overrun by some random dude's speech who tells you to go home. It's like, how much can they take? And so, yeah, it's our job. It's our job now to teach others instead. Like, so if you see someone being like, well, show me what to do. If you're friends with that woman, get in there and be like, here are some possibilities for you to go read. Don't make them answer that comment. Be like, I'll help.
Yeah, exactly.
Read these books.
Let me come over here to this side, exit 3. Let me break you down. Let me just start you with these first 20 lists. When you're done, come back and see me, and we can have a discussion about it. Tell me how you're feeling. That is how you change the whole entire mindset. When you have something so systematic, and when the people say systematic, they keep saying that over and over again, and people go, I don't even really know what that means. That is the part of the problem. They don't understand how deep, and they think systematic starts with slavery or the ends at the civil rights movement, which Barr today brought up. I said, sir, this is so deep in our culture. You literally made the public housing movement to segregate. Austin, Texas, that just had the boy die, is one of the most segregated cities in the world, where they zoned off the entire city so that the Black and brown community cannot possibly get a representative into Congress, cannot get anyone put forth for them to represent them. Those are places down in the South still exist today. The last sundown town sign outside of Indiana came down 6 years ago. Y'all act like slavery was the end all be all of where racism began and ended. And it really did not. It is so new to us. And that's another, I'm a history nut. Like, I'm a fanatic on my history. So even before, when I would have racial conversations with even my Black friends, I'd say, everything's so raw because it's still so new. America, compared to the rest of the known world, is a baby. It ain't really even blossomed past a few 300 years. There's still people right now that have been alive in the 60s that are just now coming. We're just now coming to the end of those people. So until we actually, that's why I love the youth, because they're not tied to that history. They're not tied to those people. They're able to go out, look at the world as they've been living in it, and they see that world is beautifully Black, beautifully brown, and beautifully white together. And they've been happy there. So to them, seeing all this or understanding where all of this systematic racism comes from and how this country completely and utterly made it that way is eye-opening, because it was almost as if it's like they don't know. Like, they just really hide that until you go to somewhere, like I said, college, where you're doing those research papers and you're doing that things for class, and you're finding out if you do one research paper on public housing, your entire life will be changed.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, because that set the stage. That was in 1930. That was before we even got civil rights. So they've been planting, like I said, 1912. They've been Black Wall Street. When we had the one chance we had to build independent Black wealth in this country, the National Guard and the government colluded to tear that down. And then they put in 1,000,001 policies to make sure Black and brown people were never going to have the same rights. Then they decided, okay, now it's okay to give you your freedom. They grant you things and they go, well, we gave you your freedom. I'm sorry, I didn't know I needed your fucking permission to be free. You stole me from my land and you put me here on the land you stole, right? From the Native Americans that we just never even talk about. And then when it became a war between you and one power ran out, basically the North basically said, we can't keep being the Constitution if we continue with slavery, because it didn't coincide together. So then after that point, once again, when they got their wealth, they said, okay, this is the time to end that slavery and oppression. Then they move on to the next stage. So this phase, to them, a lot of people right now feels as if we're just moving to that next, like, it feels very 60ish to me. It feels as if we're on that next wave where Black people are asking for something that is so basic, so simplistic. And it's sad that we have to fight so hard. Like, we have to literally get the entire world on board just to have a conversation, and we're still nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, after all this, I think, 4 people have been arrested, and it's not really even, we don't know if they're going to be convicted. It's
yeah, you can arrest people all day long. Where's the conviction?
Exactly. And like you said, if I buy a house, it is a funny thing. It's so many horror movies. Dan knows. You buy a house and you think this house is beautiful. You start hearing voices. You look back in history and be like, dang, people were murdered in this house. And their spirits are still around. And it's like, we have been on murdered land for, so many hundred years.
That we've been on a burial ground.
Yeah, that's what, literally from beginning. And we wonder, why is this rooted in racism? Because it was built on it. You can't help but have it be what it is now, because that's what it started as. And I think now the only way, unfortunately, that this thing happens is if the system is turned upside down. I'm talking about
completely.
We got to get rid of police. I believe that this, the state of capitalism is totally jacked. It's over. We cannot, the amount for us 3. If you compare us to, like if you compare where the richest people in the world are, or in America is, to the poorest or middle class, the gap is so big at this point.
Extremely.
The gap is so big, it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. It's gonna crumble. And it's just like, before it crumbles, maybe you should do something about it. Maybe you should do something exactly brand new. I remember when people laughed at Andrew Yang. Andrew Yang was wrong, mind you. I don't think that he said that he was going to give people a UBI, universal basic income, and that would be to pay for medical insurance, to pay for everything. Other people were like, no, we need to do like other countries and give someone a universal basic income, $2,000 a month, so that they don't have to live check to check. And if they lose their job, which these corporate people will make you lose your job, you can actually sit down and be like, what do I want to do? But $2,000 isn't even enough.
No, it's not.
It's not enough.
They gave $1,200 and they in the street talking about, I don't know what you wanted us to do.
Yeah, what do you want us to do with that? That's a few
New York City is for rent is probably $1,200. You pay my rent for a month.
Somebody. Go run with that. Run with that $1,200. Feed your family for months. It's ridiculous, man. And people are wondering why, like that's the side that I think that a lot of people don't get. And I'm sorry to interrupt both of you, but it's
no.
I just kind of want to keep in the conversation just for the fact that I think, and I keep coming from this point of view, is that I think a lot of people say things trivially and they don't really see the full picture. You know what I mean? And so when they're saying things like, why are they rioting? It's not just because of the money situation. That's the least of it, probably. I mean, what I'm trying to say is, without trying to sound like that guy that's quoting Martin Luther King, because I'm really not going to, but really, folks, it's people have been unheard too long. They've been having to stay. It's like they're yelling, but they're silent. They've just been on mute, and they've been unheard for too long, and they are fed up. And, getting back to $1,200, how are you going to feed your family with something like that? How are you, when you're already fighting against the system as it is, you're fighting against the rate of I don't have to tell you too that, the unemployment rate for Black people is ridiculous,
Yeah.
So when you're fighting with something like that, what are you supposed to do? What's the easy out? It's very easy for people, and including myself, someone that's not Black, just to trivially go or randomly go, you know what? It's just, they're going about this the wrong way. What's the right way? You had it the right way. You've never had to do this. You've never had to walk into a store and be followed. You've never, you know what I mean? You've never just been the automatic, oh my God, I'm getting fucking emotional. I'm sorry. But you've never just been that automatic, oh, it's their fault. And that's why I'm so emotionally moved lately, is just because I've taken a good look at things, and I just hate the way it's going, man. It's
tough, man. And
it's hard for me. I almost feel, and I know you two are with me, but I almost feel like guilty complaining about it. Like I shouldn't be the one.
Because you are the one. Yeah, you are the one.
You're supposed to. You're feeling what you're feeling. Let's call it empathy. That's the word for it.
But when I say that, like me, I'm not just talking about Dan Ramirez. I'm thinking that a lot of people feel this way. You know, getting back to like the black squares, getting back to things like posting stuff about Killer Mike, you know, and I don't think that, like you said, I don't think that this is, you know, where you're coming from and you understand why you said those things. But is it a bad thing for someone to do this if this is their first dipping their toe in the water and changing their mindset? Do you know what I'm saying?
It was black men doing it, though. I saw black dudes.
No, and I
retweet. Yeah.
I think that there's people out there that want to help. They want to help change. They don't know how to change. And they feel like they're jumping into traffic. They don't know where to go. So it's dangerous to them. And then, you know, there is backlash for that. You know, you try to do something and you get swatted down, then they don't want to do it anymore. And that's not the kind of mindset that we need anymore.
Exactly. That's why I trash my friends on Twitter for it.
I wouldn't do it on Twitter. I would read Twitter and engage with your people you trust on Facebook.
Yeah.
Twitter you could go viral real quick. Like someone said wonderfully, they're like, every day there's a star on Twitter. The goal is not to be that person.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the goal. You don't want to be the guy or the woman everyone's talking about on Twitter because it's most likely horrible and you went viral for. So be on Facebook and be like, teach me. Because one thing I will say is if you go to if you know a friend, black, preferably a dude, these women, they're dealing with too much. You know, female people of color, they have too much on their plate. But try to get to them and be like, what do I need to know about this? And they'll send you books. Let them send you books. Let them say, read this. Or, you know what else is your friend? Google. Google is a good friend. But the only reason I don't use that, I don't say that, is because Google will also spit out the worst site to go to.
It can come at you wrong sometimes.
You know what I'm
saying? Not
saying?
only that, a lot of people pay for what's about to come up first.
Right.
Google can be capitalized quite a bit. But that doesn't mean I can't search Google for you and give you a list of the best ones you need to look at. I mean, you can go everyone has Netflix right now. We're all quarantined. We're at home. Go on one of those documentaries. Just go into history. That's the one thing about history. When it repeats itself consistently, particularly in our society. So when you need to understand why you're here now, go to the past, because I bet you're going to find something that clicks and that can teach you exactly why it is the way it is. And like I said, a lot of those details are so buried that the only way you're going to get to them is in a book or a documentary. You can't ask, Mrs. T to talk to you about the 1912 Tulsa riots, because Mrs. T might not even know those riots went on.
Yeah.
In the school. I mean, it's just really sad to me to see, and I'm not trying to down the fact that so many people don't know, because it's just, as someone who's so passionate about education and how it personally just affects even my mindset as a person, I like to constantly teach myself, and that we are so used to having people teach us that I think sometimes that is the instinctual reaction of those Black women, as you say, to say, I don't have the time. But as I stated before, if you don't take the time, yes, the Black men too, but if you have Caucasian friends that white allies that you went out and had drinks with and had fun with, you should be able to have those same conversations about how, we was talking just the other day about how your menstrual cycle was and this and that, all these personal details. We should then be able to have a conversation in which I talk to you about racism. And like I said, that personal connection, don't undervalue it. It is a tool. It's one of the best tools, because those people love you. And love is what is pushing a lot. And I always say the Black community is probably also one of the most patient, understanding. Like, we're sitting out there where we could, like, they're getting mad at all the looting and the rioting and all of that stuff. But what would happen, and I'm not saying we should do it, Steve, don't start. But what happened if a whole bunch of Black people just said, fuck it? let's get our guns and start going into a white neighborhood and shooting up. We would never even consider that, right? Because that's not what we don't want retaliation. We want justice. We want to be treated fairly. We want to be involved in the place that all the veterans, oh, I died for this country. Yeah, and you came back. The Black people that were put on the front lines in World War I didn't. A lot more died than the Caucasian troops that came after. Okay, whole Black units. You get to come home with that tale of surviving that war. There's a lot of Black and brown men that did not. And so stop using patriotism as an excuse for ignoring the racial things that are going on, the economic things that are going on, the fact that apparently a great deal of Americans can't cut their hair. And so they feel the needs to get automatic rifles, spit in the middle of a pandemic on other people's faces. And then you have Barr standing up today talking about now, no, actually it was not Barr. I'm sorry, correction. It was the commissioner of New York City talking about it's okay to open bars because, it's fresh air out there. But protesters are a threat to the pandemic.
Yeah. We're in I think the hard part is, I have to toggle in my brain between anger and frustration to solutions. Mm-hmm. And it took me, and it's a shame. I feel like Dan, where how am I just waking up to I talked to my boy from, he actually, it's funny. He wanted to say what's up to you, Dan, because he heard you he's heard you mention his name too. Daniel from Farouk.
Oh yeah.
And he was like, so he, and he said that last week was like he's like, are you guys good? It was like hearing my two uncles fighting.
We'll get to that before we go.
He texted me and he was just like, I feel very uncomfortable right now. I knew exactly what he was talking about. He's like, oh, I don't feel good right now. Are you guys good? And I'm like, yeah, but he said, I texted him. I was like, I'm done with capitalism. And instead of clowning me, he just was like, oh, well, welcome. That's good. I've been there for a while. He could have done the thing was like, oh, word, now you're done with capitalism. He didn't do that. He was just like, yeah, it's a terrible system. We should have. I was like, solution is me being like, okay, we abolish the police force. Instead, and if people are just like, I'm not gonna, okay, well then I don't need to talk to you about it. I need to talk. I can't sit there and argue it. Why? Because I haven't studied it enough. If I argue abolishing police force with someone who loves the police, I might lose that argument because I haven't dived in long enough. I need to get into what it looks like, what the money goes, what do we do, how do we start community policing? So also we have to understand that with talking about solutions, make sure you know what you're talking about first. Yes. Don't go out into the fray and start speaking nonsense because you'll get clowned and you might push someone to the other side.
Exactly.
Don't just repeat a tweet.
Don't repeat
because it seemed revolutionary to you.
Exactly. So when people are just like, I don't think this is, like, I'll ask my sister, I'll be like, so what does that look like? What does abolishing police look like? And it's like, look, this is not we sign a document and the police are abolished. This is a long, where does the money go? What do we do? How does this work? How do we train community policing? Who does it? What is the board of supervisors? How do you, like, there's a lot of lines, but it's like, at least okay, this is the solution I'm really concentrating on. And that's what I'm focusing all my energy on is abolishing local police forces. Racism is never going to go away.
Nope.
But getting rid of a system that facilitates racism.
Yes.
I don't care if you call me nigger I don't care if you can call me nigger over the phone. But you can't deny me a job. You can't deny my money. You can't deny that. You don't have a systematic thing behind you, a mechanism to keep on having that racism affect my life. You don't have that anymore. So racism is not going to go, but we need to get rid of the system that facilitates that racism.
The system that tries to threaten you with it too.
Exactly. Have fun with that. You can go into your room and yell at me in your walls and then do all you want. But there's a reason that Germany was like, we're not going to have, you can't have Nazi memorabilia. If you have that, we'll arrest you. Mm-hmm. They don't care about that whole, we got to give them the, like, no. Yeah. We've seen where this goes.
Yeah.
We've already done this.
And we ain't done that, ain't doing it again. The same day, never getting off.
Exactly. And so and then, my like I said, my focuses are abolishing police. My focus is on abolishing the death penalty. That's a racial issue too. And so people have to find out, what are you going to learn about this month, these 2 months? What is going to be your thing? Because if you're like, I'm going to take on abolishing the this, the that, you're not going to do anything.
Don't overwhelm yourself.
Because it's all exactly. Dan, that's what Dan just said. Don't overload. Pick a thing. Be like, what is going to be your thing? While you're still out there saying Black Lives Matter, what is going to be your phobia? Like, I want to abolish the death penalty. That's a Black Lives Matter issue too.
Exactly.
Innocent Black, Hispanic, indigenous people have been innocently electrocuted. Innocently. And now we go look back and say, oops, my fault. Turns out he was innocent. That doesn't help anybody. That doesn't help anybody.
We're the payouts.
For people with the mindset that you can't do this, that you can't defund the police and just break it down and build it from the back, build it from the ground up again. Just think about this for a second. It's not that I don't think this is a fucking ridiculous idea, but we live in a country that actually wanted to make a space force. That shit's from the ground up. You're going to fucking say that true. You can't. That's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? So is it really that asinine to think that we can just build something from the ground up again and rebuild it? But no, we're going to fucking make a space force with space cadets and shit.
Build something from the ground up when we started the Constitution. Did we not know what the Revolutionary War was?
Yeah.
People from 13 colonies came up with a document, and it is now governing our country for centuries. And you're going to tell me you can't build something from the ground up?
That's totally, it's funny. And also when people say, we can't do universal basic income. You do understand Trump just put $3 trillion into Wall Street.
Wall Street.
That money by itself would have everyone in America doing a basic income. And instead you give it to Wall Street and be like, well, they have to be able to survive, right? Do they? Now, again, pick your thing though. Pick your thing or your two things. Don't overload yourself. Otherwise, you're going to stop. I would too, because it's just too much. So I picked the death penalty and abolishing the police. That's it that I'm concentrating on while still doing Black Lives Matter, all that stuff. My section of that discussion are these things. What is your section? What are you going to concentrate on? Because then if we all know what each other does, if someone hits me up and was like, hey, Steve, I don't know about this. I'll be like, Dan, you know what? I don't either, but Dan does. Oh, Steve, I don't know about this thing. You know what? I'm not a professional about that, but I'll talk to Christina and she'll hook me up so that I don't put you into her mentions. I'll ask her myself. She'll tell me. So if we know what everyone is concentrating on, there's people we could be like, hey, go talk to them. They're really good at this thing. Because you can't be good at everything. You just can't.
Nope.
You can't. So find out what your thing is and then tell everybody, like, yeah, I'm concentrating on this. And then I know, hey, talk to this person. They're really good on this subject. I'm not very versed. Because if you try to bull crap and freestyle, listen.
That one, you can smell bullshit from a mile away. I mean,
they'll be like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. They're like, you don't know what especially if they go home and Google it and be like, oh, that person was totally wrong.
And they love putting that stuff out there that you was wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, they love trying to prove someone, especially when they trying to make a point about racism. They love just trying to.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, I was sitting there tweeting in a live chat, and they was wrong, but it was cracking me up. So I said, clearly I've mentioned it several times that I was listening to Bar today. So I'm like, something about what Bar was saying, and someone will say, that's not Bar. I said, I didn't even respond. Everyone else was tearing them up. Like, did you not read the part underneath where his name is? Because I didn't even have time to correct him. I'm like, I don't have time to address and to tie in what you're saying, Steve, to address every ignorance in the world. No. Ignorance is going to continue to exist. But that's the thing about ignorance. It's constantly ignorant. It is our responsibility, as you say, to pick the things that we can intellectually be proficient on and put change. Obama came out with a plan yesterday. Let me tell, was it yesterday or the day before?
It was yesterday.
Yeah.
It seems like forever ago.
It does seem like forever ago. Oh my God. It is. I lost track of time. I saw that, man. I ain't even gonna lie. I started just crying on sight.
Listen.
On sight. I didn't even know I needed him in my viewpoint. And it's not even because he's a black man. It's because, my God, I mean, you say what you will about Obama's policies, whatever. That man you could come up to and talk to. He talked to you as a person. You felt comfortable and confident with the presidency in his hands. Whatever the issues was going on, and I admit it, I never agreed with everything Obama was doing.
Of course not. Of course not.
It's not about that. It's about, man, that's a president, and he makes me feel better. Yeah. He got on, and I was just weeping out tears. I couldn't even hear what he was saying. I was like, I want to be hugged by you right now. I'm so lonely.
And had a black woman moderating it. A black woman moderating it. Saying, look, I'll lead this discussion of how it's going to go because he understands who's on the front line. He had her moderating it. And again, here's the thing. What I've noticed is, and I get it, people have issues with Obama, but some people have made their whole career on everything that he does. I'll just be anti that and show you how left and woke I am. Have fun with that. Have fun with that. But what I will say is, who would you rather have in office right now? You know what I'm saying? If all of it doesn't matter. And I was going to say something to everybody that's going to be teaching somebody. I'm going to let you know, and I'm speaking to myself because I have this tendency. When you teach somebody, sometimes they learn so fast, they explode, and all of a sudden they know everything now. They legit just studied and know. Don't feel jealous when they don't mention the fact that you taught them everything. That's not their job to do that. They're moving on. They're jamming. You did your right thing, but don't do that small thing where you're just like, well, I taught them that. I showed them that.
That credit's not the important part right now.
Thank you. And I have an issue with that. I do that. And I need to tell myself, it's not, you taught them, then they sped up. This was their thing. You gave them the platform. Don't expect them to be like Steve said. And Steve, no. It's not about you anymore. It's about this young or middle-aged or older person that all of a sudden got this spark. And they're jamming and they learn faster than you. And they're off to the races. Don't be a hater in that time because it's going to be tempting, some of y'all. It's going to be tempting.
And don't be like the Caucasians either because they are able to get out. Like, I have said this multiple times to my black friends and my sisters, like, stop. Because being anti-white, stop playing like we was the ones in Congress passing any of the bills and reforms that came between. We was not there. We were marching, we were rioting, we were protesting, but it was the white allies that passed them laws. We know who gets in the building and who does not. If the white allies can push us further, clap with them. That is a win for all of us. It don't matter if it's a Coretta Scott doing it. We have to understand that there's just more to our pride here. Way more to our pride here at stake. We need to get from everybody, because a lot of people are actually talking about the UK on Twitter. And I was banning a lot. I go to a lot of people's pages and just block them because I want to physically do some harm, but I'm like, I'm going to murder you just via blocking. That's the only way I can get you to disappear from my life. But a lot of people are starting to turn to this culture of, well, we put it out there, so we should get all the credit for it. And I'm like, no, that's not helping.
Boyega was out there handling that business. Boyega was out there handling that.
Boyega wasn't playing.
And here's my thing. He said something very true. He said, I may not have a career.
Yes,
he didn't know that Twitter was going to come. It's funny. Everyone retweeted him. It was like, I got you. It wasn't until Jordan Peele said, I got you. I'm like, oh, he's fine.
Yeah, he's fine.
Like, oh, he's fine.
He's totally fine.
Yeah,
he's at least one more role.
He is good. And my thing is, he had such passion and that's that fire. That's that fire. Someone sparked him where someone schooled him and initiated that spark. He didn't get up there and be like, I'd like to thank my homie for telling me that. No.
Nope.
And I'm sure whoever told him that was just proud of him getting out there and just, because this was a brand new Boyega in the last 2 months.
Yeah, it was.
This is a brand new on fire skip, like something clicked. And that's what you want. Someone you talk to is just going to click. They're going to go out and do more than you do.
It's happening all over the world right now, man. It's a
All
beautiful
over
thing.
the
Like,
world.
we need this, you know? And not to
Exactly.
sound like an old ass man, Steve, but that's that youth you're talking about. with
That
Boyega.
youth, bro. That
You know?
youth.
The youth is fearless. They fearless.
I mean, when you're tap dancing on a cop car, it's like that's like also another thing. Stop, people. I know we want to do this, and if there's only I know it's not a lot of y'all, but it doesn't help putting pictures of cops dancing with you and shaking.
Nope.
It doesn't help anything.
That's not
Nope.
enough,
It doesn't
man.
help. Not
It's
enough
not.
at all.
Matter
Because
of fact,
a
I
lot
feel
of
like it's appeasing them.
It
It
is,
is.
because a lot of times a black woman will come back later and be like, "Oh, 5 minutes later they shot us."
They even show it. They're like, they literally tear gassed us. They're doing photo ops.
That
They're doing
quick, that
photo
quick.
ops to get the
Boom.
rest of the world to think that there's some still good. If you were good, you would walk the hell up off your job, or
Bingo.
you would be in the protest, putting up a sign, putting straight up solidarity. You put the tear gas down. The people that are in charge, the chief of police, y'all ain't out there telling them that. Y'all sitting doing the little photo op, and then you go right back to your squad and go, okay, don't murder them. Push them hard though.
That photo
And
op
here-
is a documentation of, hey, look what I did. You don't know what I did after that, but look what I did. I have proof
Mhm.
on video that I was, quote unquote, kneeling with you or standing with you or marching with you, whatever. That's a little moment in time that goes away.
As simply as that.
You know?
And they were just like, "Hey, make sure you get that picture, because then it can show." The good thing is they don't understand how fast social media.
Oh,
is.
yeah.
They're like, "Oh no."
That's the thing about all of the cops. That's the most hilarious. Like, you ever catch them when they're turning around and they realize it's the camera? Like, you can tell the deer in the headlights look, because they're so not even used to.
They don't know.
Look, I even did the stats. The police force in this country is 73% white, all above the age of 40-year-old men. So these are not people that are even woke. Anywhere near close. Old school method of thinking. So they have no idea how quickly and how fiercely the social media can rip you apart.
Yeah. And we're doing it nice. Like, I sent this to my sister. In Puerto Rico, they carried a full-size guillotine to the governor's mansion.
They sure did.
A guillotine.
They sure did.
I said, listen.
Could you imagine?
Oh my God. I said, when I saw that they were doing a Black Lives Matter protest, I was like, oh, what does this look like? I was like, Jesus Christ.
You know what? That's why Trump got a damn fence around him right now.
That's why he's in the bunker.
He's in the bunker crying.
And here's what made me think. I said, you didn't just build this guillotine yesterday.
No, you didn't.
You had this thing sitting around.
One of these
just
days,
in case.
this is going to come in handy.
You were at a garage sale, be like, we're going to toss this. Be like, no. I'll take that off your.
I'll refinish it.
This is arts and crafts time.
I told you this would come in handy.
I would have been like, hey, Stacy, what's this in your garage right here? Oh, guillotine, just in case.
Just in case.
Okay.
You never know.
Wait, the French Revolution? Nah, it's coming back.
Stacey would have been like, and speaking of which, what do you think of Black Lives Matter? I'll be like, well, now I'm pro that if you are, since you gotta. They carried a guillotine to the governor's.
But you know what? That's the part America is really. That's where them conservatives, that moderates actually get scared, because they're like, they don't want America to become a third world country, but.
Listen.
Look, stop acting like this is the most holy place in the world. It can happen. I'm not saying I want it.
If they start carrying, here's the thing, y'all go ahead with your guns. If I see a group of black women carrying a guillotine through the street, I'd be like, listen, ladies and gentlemen, things just got real. Because they had that thing.
They have had enough.
You're like, hey, go to grandma's house and get the guillotine. You're like, what? Where's does she have a guillotine?
Go to grandma's house. Like you're going to get the switch.
Go in the back by the tree, apple tree.
There's a guillotine back there, baby. Bring me my guillotine. Be like, whoa, she brought out the guillotine?
The guillotine.
I didn't even know in the blade is, I was like, they got a legit guillotine, and we haven't done that yet.
Yeah.
If that starts happening, then everyone's going to have a sit-down conversation and be like, listen, we got to do something. We got to do something because it's going to get soon.
No.
It seems like we're on the verge, man.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. It's like, let them come back not guilty.
Because
let them come back not guilty. It's not even funny. That will be the day that this, to be honest, I'm saying it right now, they come back not guilty. That will be the day that this country officially dies. I'm predicting it now.
There's going to also come a point where there's going to be so much uprising that one of these soldiers is going to be like, oh, crap, that's my street.
Yep.
Whose side am I on?
Mm-hmm.
That's my street. That's my sister in that crowd.
We are teetering on civil war right now, man.
Oh,
no question.
No question at all.
We're looking at the fuse. All they need to do is light that motherfucker. And they're like flicking the flint right now, man. That's what's crazy.
For sure. Yeah. We're about to see the first soldier. Here's what I'm calling it. One of them is going to walk to the protester side and turn around.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'm going to be like, oh, wait. If it's not going to be just him.
Nope.
It's not going to be just him.
The floodgates open but that's the thing. And I'm not trying to, you can see the confliction in some of these you can see like the one, did you see in New York City where the one black lady saw one of the soldiers push?
Yeah. And then she got fired.
And then she got fired. I said, you got people trying, and this is the thing, they try to make it a frat. Like, I didn't say this before about police and how they organize. That's the one thing you have to understand back to the beginning of this is the police force is a frat. A frat, what do they do when someone's not doing nothing? They haze them. How they haze police? Oh, I need backup. I'm being pinned down. Oh, Johnny said something against or said support against Black Lives Matter. I'm going to take my time. They will leave you to die. And that's the scary part for these officers, because when they need assistance, they know that those people that do not stand with them, not only that, they how many times do they do cookouts a week? They sit on church together. They sit on the same councils. It's a mentality, actual mentality, like a cult, some would say.
No, there's no question. And also, let me change that. I don't think that a man is going to switch sides first. It's going to be a woman.
Oh,
I assure you, it's going to be a woman who switches sides first. And technically, 20,000 years from now, if the earth is still actually populated with people, they're going to look back and be like, they used to what?
Right? That's the part that they don't understand. I was explaining to my friend the other day. I swear to God, she was like, I don't understand. And I do. She was being very genuine because, like I said, I'm a history person. So I'm studying. Like, one of my friends actually said, I can't believe you said you called the National Guard calling before the National Guard ever came. And that was like 4 or 5 days before they showed. I said, no, I'm predicting things based on how this nation reacts. So I'm sitting here talking to her about why she thinks this is happening particularly now. I says, well, 1, January started and there was a pandemic. That was the first thing. Then a lot of people lost their jobs. That was the second thing. They were happening to Black and brown communities, particularly the most affected. Still nothing. Then you saw Ahmaud Arbery. Then you heard about Breonna Taylor. By the time it got to George Floyd, your chest was so heavy. It was like, at least for me, and I can't imagine for not other Black people, it was like the world was pushing down and we all could not breathe. And the minute that you are gasping for air like that, you have no choice but to start. Like you're impotent. You cannot figure out what to do. So you rage and you go out in the streets. It's why they were so violent at first. And then once you start getting people that were angry with you, you're like, you know what? This is the time for, we can do this. We can change this. And it all coincided together because it was appalling the first time, but 3 times in the same damn week when the world already has turned on you and is killing you, just some random flu that we thought we conquered a long ass time ago. A lot of people were also stuck with the thoughts of their mortality in those 2 months of that quarantine, where they're starting to think about things like, what am I doing with my life? What do I do in the face of helplessness? What do? You start reading, you start looking at documentaries, then you go to social media. And when social media starts putting that information and you see those lives being lost the way they were so consecutively lost, that told us a tale better than any other that has come before that is so strong. And that is why it happened. It's like the perfect storm that basically started this whole entire campaign. But it's not even just a perfect, that man sat there for George Floyd 9 minutes. Because this is the thing about the media. They love to tear a narrative, right? We watched him walk out calmly, arrested, no, not fighting, nothing. We see him being beat. We saw him begging for his life. Then we saw 4 people stand there and not give a damn.
Stoic. No emotion on their face.
Nothing. What haunts, my mother can't sleep right now. She says it haunts her all the time. The death rattle. When people die, people don't know this. There's a sound your body makes.
Yep.
It is the saddest sound. And to see 4 officers who you are paying to protect and serve do nothing but cause this man's death, you were never going to escape that. And that it hit that pinnacle of, holy shit, they're not lying. For some people, that was the first time, unfortunately. But there was a whole tale in George Floyd's story captured on camera that just could not be ignored. And that is what the storm that continues today is, why his name is shouted out, why it's all over the world, because you can't hear that death rattle and have a soul. I'm sorry, that's how I feel.
No, that's true. I mean, I think we just got to keep pushing is ultimately what it is they're going to try to give people pennies and give them crumbs and then be like, here you go, you're welcome. The goal is to keep pushing. Do not stop until this my main thing being, the police department. Do not stop until every police department in the country is abolished.
Yeah.
And don't have the
only community.
And don't have that mentality too, like, oh, I just can't wait till this all dies down, because it's not gonna die down. It might go away off of your personal radar, but this problem is not going away.
No, not even close.
If anything, it's getting worse.
I remember, talking to my mom about she's like, my police officer, we would be scared that to run into him because we knew, oh crap, he knows my mom. I'm like, oh, I don't want to deal with this guy. Community policing is where it's at because they know everybody in the neighborhood. They know if the liquor store gets robbed, they'll know exactly. Be like, oh, you don't even have to tell me. I know who did this, or they'll know it didn't come out from our neighborhood. Let me call the other neighbor. This didn't happen from our community.
Steve, let me tell you something. Black people have been doing that for centuries. Let me tell you, if you down the block and you did something, Miss Anderson's calling down to your mama house. She gonna be like, get over here, because you was in church this Sunday. Get over here. Yeah. Get over here. Yeah. Get over here now. They will walk you down to your mama house, and you like, shit.
Here comes a whooping. Yeah, here
comes a whooping. Not only that, you're going to stand there with the neighbor while she's giving you a whooping. No, they don't. We've been implementing policing our communities, I think, for a really long time. Oh, and like you said, that's the black mama.
Yeah, and we need to. And the thing is, it might be that it just starts with a city, or a district, where it's like, in our district we voted police out. In our district, and once other districts see, their crime rate didn't go up without these people monitoring with guns. And here's another thing, though: in order to get community policing actually working, we got to get rid of guns. We got to get rid of guns. Because if everyone has a gun, all of a sudden, now you're putting I mean, can you really balance that? Yeah, not everyone needs a freaking gun.
Nope.
You don't need a gun. Maybe the only person in that community policing that should have a gun is the community police officer.
Thank you.
You know what I'm saying? Maybe he should be the one to have a gun and not walking around. Because listen, in your community, it's gonna be those. It's
gonna be those people that shot Aubrey, who perceived a threat. Oh, I'm just doing my duty for my neighborhood.
Exactly.
Because I think he did something. But I'm gonna take my shotgun, jump in a truck, chase him down. Did we call the police? Oh, I can be the police now.
Yeah, and that's what we need. We need a community officer.
That's what a gun tells people. That to me, that's gun control is a whole other.
Maybe that's a thing. That's what I'm saying. Gun control is another thing. Because that's by itself. By itself is if you were like, the only thing I'm doing for this protest is gun control, I'll be like, you bit off a lot. you bit off, because this isn't just a Black Lives Matter thing. It's a nationwide epidemic. But Dan, weren't you saying? Did we do that Discord thing?
Yeah, we did actually. Yeah,
did we have questions?
We have one email that we got. We were gonna do something where the Discord thing. We've had this Discord server for about a year now. We haven't done anything with it. We'll talk about that later, because that's something I don't really want to go into right now because it's so off topic. But that's something where we're going to be able to incorporate you guys into the show. But speaking of that, we do have one voicemail from Favon, and it's all relative to this. So do you mind if I play it?
Go for it.
All right, here we go.
Hi guys, it's Favon. It took me a long time to leave this voicemail because every time I started, I got a little bit emotional. So I'm going to keep it together and keep this brief. One of the main things, there's so much I wanted to say, but one of the main things I wanted to say is I really wish people would understand that when we say Black Lives Matter or we're for Black lives, we're not saying that we're against any other life. We're just trying to emphasize Black lives at this current time because Black lives are the ones in danger. That's all I'm going to say. I love you guys. I really appreciate you guys for doing this show and for doing not just this episode, but all the episodes you guys do. Love you.
I love you.
Love you.
Love you, Favon.
Totally. She's totally right. And it's she hit on a point where, as you can see, it's an emotional thing when you hear all lives matter. And you know what? Let me tell you something. This is a great, Favon just reminded me. Everybody that's churchgoers, I challenge you to something. If you have a pastor, and I'm not saying you have to leave your church because you probably have people that you love around there. Mind you, you do not want to know what they think about you. But anyway, if your pastor says all lives matter, you and a group of your people who feel the same way you do, start sending tithing checks to another woke church. And if they ever ask you about it, tell that pastor all churches matter too. Right?
Ooh.
I'm tithing elsewhere because all churches matter. And if he's like, well, no, exactly, but don't. You get your group of friends and you tithe to a woke church, a Unitarian church, someone that's actually having Black Lives Matter on their thing, and give them money. And
go ahead,
just do that. I was just saying, just do that. And if he asks you about it, say, well, all churches matter too. And until you say Black Lives Matter, I will not tithe this church. Will not do it. And if they lose enough money, all of a sudden they're going to have an epiphany. Oh, I understand what you guys are saying. I bet you do. And also consider leaving. But go on.
I would definitely consider leaving. I ain't gonna lie. I would have walked right up. I would have grabbed my church fan, stood up, and walked right on out. And if they ask me why, I'm like, because Black Lives Matter right now.
Of course.
You know,
now, unfortunately, though, unfortunately, a lot of times that's their only friends. The only friends they have are the people that they go to weekly at that place. That's why I'm like, I know I'd want to say to leave because it's easy for me to say to leave because I'm a person that has a bunch of friends. I can just be. Some people don't have a lot of people. So I'm like, well, the people you do have are there. Go there, but you need to side eye. Make sure you side eye, and then you give that tithing check to the unit, because I'm only saying the Unitarian churches because those are the only people that I've seen, and some unfortunately black churches have been actually outspoken, but the Unitarian church, man, they got some white pastors that be out there talking about Black Lives Matter on their Chiron and crap.
Oh,
so I'm just like,
did you hear about the bishop? I mean, he told Trump in a way, he was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, did you just walk to my boarded church to get a photo? You got life all jacked. I didn't even come to pray." But the thing about all lives matter and that constant, I mean, that's just, to me, it's another part of why this is the way it is. It's why people keep getting frustrated that we have to break down why Black Lives Matter. We got to now put it on posters. Yes, we know all lives matter, but Black Lives Matter because, like, we still are doling out this knowledge and trying to get our message heard without it getting hijacked. That is like the number one thing those particular group of people, I hate saying Caucasians because all Caucasians is not the same, are non-white allies. Maybe that's better. What they use to undermine everything that we say, but they want to hijack something else of our culture. And that is the part where you just start getting that fury. And I know the fury is not good because I had to tell myself that, like, getting mad only gets you so far. My anger provides me with a way it builds up my motivation, right? I'm only going to say angry for so long, but you know what? Let me list all the things I can do. Right now, I got me a little black book I like to call. All the politicians, I'm just writing down their names. For what reason? So that when someone else brings it up, I can recall what they said. Just for my own personal, so when I'm having these conversations with my non-white allies and they tell me something like, this person said, all lives matter. I'm going to say, and then they also said that the Black NIGGA, okay, you don't believe me here, right here on August 24th, 2:30 p.m., here you go. You want to defend all lives matter with that person that's preaching that? Look behind the hashtag and see who it is that's saying it. Because people who are going around saying all lives matter, let's be real. They're not caring about all lives. They just want to make sure that they're not kept out of the equation.
That's in the great words of DJ Khaled, that is accurate.
That is accurate.
That is accurate.
Hey, on that vein of like educating people and not giving credit, like you were saying, Steve, I don't know if this is necessarily educating, but I think it's a good point. It's something that I read and I shared, but for people that didn't see it, I don't know who put this out, but I think it makes people think. It should make people think. And it just says, if Black Lives Matter bothers you because it doesn't say all lives matter, but blue lives matter doesn't bother you, then what really bothers you is the word black. And you need to take a look at that, people. And I say that because I've seen it time and time again in social media. People I know.
Great quote.
You know what I mean?
That is a great quote.
That's actually really
and I'm not saying that to throw shade at people. It's just open your eyes up a little bit and ask yourself where this is coming from. Because I think that more people need to be doing this. It's just, this is a time for people to wake up. And again, I wanted you guys to talk more because I wanted to hear it from your perspective. You know what I mean? But
love that. And can we end it on that one?
Yeah.
I really actually think that's your problem is, that's a great quote to end it on.
Yeah.
Is there any way you could put that in
on a t-shirt?
Like, can you put that on the description, like anywhere in the?
I'll figure out a way, my friend. I'll get it on there.
Yeah, that's that's as easy as it is. That's actually as straight ahead as it get. Your problem is black. That is a great, ladies and gentlemen. That's a really I hadn't seen that before. I think I'm gonna be thinking on that tonight. I'm gonna be really thinking on that tonight because I mean, what is your response to, like, what is your response to that?
Yeah.
How do you convince me? There is no argument away from that if you're on that side. There's no, they'll be like, no, but like, no. What are the difference between these two things? And they would have to, if you believe that, if you're on that other side and Dan just read that to you, just think about it. Think about that. Your problem is black. Daggone it. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, the next voice you're going to be hearing is the awesome Christina. The awesome Christina J. I don't even know what the J stands for.
I ain't giving out my government.
I know.
Easy, Steve. It's been going so well.
I'm going with Jenkins. I think it's Jenkins.
You racist.
The awesome Christina Jenkins.
Should have just said Jambalaya.
Remember, Steve, we're trying to end this on a good note.
Christina Jenkins. The awesome Christina Jenkins. Thank you so much. Love you guys. The next voices you're going to hear are those two, Christina J and Dan Ramirez.
Yeah,
Peace.
so well said, sir. So well said.
Thank you.
Hey, Christina, before you go, Steve, hold up. Christina, can you just let everyone know where they can find you? And by the way, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your opinions and educating folks and just talking with us, because I think people need to hear this, and I think you were fantastic on this show. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I love listening to you guys. I'm glad that you reached out to me. I feel flattered every single time. If you want to follow me at Black Girl Couch, my page is very woke right now. So if you are overwhelmed, I understand. But if you want to get real-time news about what's happening, I make sure I fact check things before I even post it, because I want to also be very responsible. Black Girl Couch on Twitter. That's where you can find me.
If you want to get a hold of the show, hit us up at heroesofnoisepodcast@gmail.com. That's heroesofnoisepodcast@gmail.com. You can reach me at Dan Q Public on Twitter, Steve at SE_Hudson Music. And if you want to hit up the show, it's at Heroes of Noise. Please go to our website, www.heroesofnoise.com, and feel free to leave us a voicemail like you just heard. Subscribe to the show, share this show, please. Thank you all for listening. We really appreciate it. I know it's different than what we normally do, but it had to be done. I'm sure you understand. My name is Dan Ramirez. Educate yourself. Educate the people around you. Peace.